Hey guys, this is miicrow. We're going to be going over two build guides today. We're going to be going over the heavy Flail Ice Gauntlet and the medium Flail Ice Gauntlet. Both of these builds are fantastic for disrupting the other team. The medium Flail Ice Gauntlet is a little bit more OPR focused. You can kind of heal yourself almost indefinitely. You're actually a decent healer for your teammates as well. And you have really good offensive prowess with the ability to stagger lock your enemies. The heavy Flail Ice Gauntlet, instead of being built more about healing, is more built around sustain, so it's going to prevent you from getting one shot from any really explosive builds, while still you're going to be able to do decent damage and have some impact on heals, albeit that the heals are more of a secondary feature of this build than a primary. We're going to start off with the medium Flail Ice Gauntlet build today, because that's like the more common build I think people will run. This build is built to do very well in 1v1s because of all the passive healing. It's going to do well in 3v3, it's going to do well small scale PvP, it's also going to do well in OPR, and it will do well in war if you're not on the actual objective itself. So if you're around the objective, this is a very good build to run, but if you're actually on the objective all the time, this is a build that I don't think will be as viable because you will be prone to be getting 100% bursted. But that being said, you have a lot of passive heals, so if you're a player that tends to die by quote-unquote bleeding out all the time, this is a very good setup to go for. So starting off here with our stat split, we got 25 strength, 240 focus, 350 con. We're trying to max out that focus while not getting to that 250 threshold. The 250 threshold for focus really isn't useful, it just is an additional heal-based effect, but it's like a more PvE related heal-based effect. It's not going to be proccing in PvP a ton, because you need to be able to get kills, and kills just aren't very common right now. That being said, if you are in a spot where your team is just consistently getting kills, this might be a decent bonus to try to get to, and maybe get rid of the 25 strength threshold just to get to that. We're going 350 cons, we have damage reduction from just swinging with our auto attacks, because we're going to be auto attacking a lot with this build. And then overall, we're just going to be playing very aggressive, but we're going to be trying to focus on kind of buffing our allies while staggering the opposition. We'll have a lot of self-sustain for ourselves from the form of tons and tons of healing. You should basically never die when you're playing this build, and it's going to be very annoying to deal with. So starting off with our flail, let's talk about artifacts first. We want tumbler shoes here because it has a shirking heal, shirking empower, and like a kind of max fortify based effect all in one. It's just one of the best artifacts in the game if you can get away with it. And basically, every medium player that have seen, I think, should be looking to either run tumbler shoes or maybe Ginge, or the kind of or the extra refreshing based chest piece. Tumbler shoes are just the best for sustained DPS, so like they're overall just a very solid artifact. The blood drinker is an artifact that will reduce your damage a little bit, but in return we'll be able to heal a lot off of our lifesteal effects themselves, so anything that we do, including dot effects, is going to be healing us. And that damage reduction isn't actually 25%, it's closer to about 15% because it is base damage reduction. We have a decent amount of base damage with this class, but not a ton, so we're going to have a little bit of a trade-off there, but I think it's well worth it in the end. Under Flail itself, we're going for Burdening Smite, Plague Strikes, and Exhaustive Exploitation. This is going to allow us to proc that Plague Strikes every time we go for a trip-based effect. Exhaustive Exploitation will proc every time we're flanking. It will put on a Exhaust every time you hit someone from behind, and every time you hit someone that doesn't have stam, it's going to apply an exhaust. So it's just like kind of a brutal effect that is very good at locking people down, and we're going to be kind of doubling down with that and going for a more exhaust based spec with our actual tree. We're going to be getting into Happy Flail, so that's another form of exhaust. So right there we have like 25% exhaust ourselves, and that's just going to be very annoying to deal with. We're going for Arcane Smite with Burning Smite. This is going to extend the duration of people's non-active cooldowns, which is very powerful. It's kind of one of the best abilities in the game probably right now. We're doing this with Kite Shields. This is also going to stagger. It's also going to give us a lifesteal, and every time they hit us or our allies, it's going to apply a weaken to the other team. Not a lot to hate about this build. It's just like, or this ability is just kind of stupid broken. Arcane Vortex is also kind of stupid broken. It applies a root. It empowers your allies, applies a haste to yourself and your allies, and makes you immune to root stunts and slows, so this ability will literally let you just zoom around the battlefield, and that combined with Mending Vortex, which we're going to take, will allow us to also heal a lot off of this, so who doesn't like a full heal on top of all of this utility? It's kind of stupid. Hey all, only 25% of people are actively subscribed to this channel, so if you find yourself watching a lot of these videos and you're not actively subscribed, please do so, and I'll let you get back to the video. Oppressive Advantage will also let us heal for more. This is kind of like a passive, outgoing, sacred-like effect. Weighted Superiority and Medium will reduce our cooldowns. Happy Flails is just good. Leader of the Pack is just good, and Better Together is just a way to AoE heal. There's something that you could try here too. You can go Bless instead of Plague Strikes if you really want to, but I think the Plague Strikes utility is well worth it if you want to be more aggressive. But if you're more passive in nature, that Plague Strikes I think is cuttable for something else. Where our Plague Strikes really will start to get value is with Trip, because their Trip will apply a heavy attack on a follow-up, and that will apply that Plague Strikes effect. So it's 25% disease, very good to combo with our ult, which is going to be the Bile. You've got Flail as a rend and a fortify. Flail Duration is an effect that will reduce dots on ourselves and our allies, so it's very good. And then Cured Flailment is something that I think is decent. Every time that you go for a trip, basically, you're going to be transferring a debuff from yourself to the other team. Instead of taking Vital Suppressant, which is like a base damage reduction, so it's not actually going to be that much damage reduction versus most builds, so that's like a trade-off that we're taking. And lastly, we're going for Mitigated Protection. If you don't like to block at all, don't take this perk and instead go for Flail Mary. But if you like to block a little bit, Mitigated Protection is just like a very solid perk because it seems like it is APS, aka Old Fortify, and Old Fortify is very, very good to get when you can get it. So it's like kind of a premium feature that's not common to anything except for Flail and SNS now. Moving on to our secondary here, we're going with the Ice Gauntlet. This tree is a little bit less exciting, it's just kind of standard Ice Gauntlet stuff. We're going with Deadly Frost, Refreshing Move, Exhaustive Exploitation again, so if someone has no stand, we hit them with a heavy attack, it's going to root them, lock them in place, apply a slow, and an exhaust. Like, holy crap. It's so brutal. But you could really kind of lock people out of the game if you go for that combo. With our actual tree itself, nothing too crazy here. We're going for Shower, Tomb, Storm. We're not taking a lot of the damage perks because we don't have any int. We're just taking most of the utility perks on this tree itself. We are taking like some of the critical base effects just for a little bit of extra damage, but honestly you can drop the critical base effect and go for the block if you actually like to block with the Ice Gauntlet. The blocking is not a bad tech versus Blunderbuss, but versus other weapons I don't find it to be very useful with the Ice Gauntlet. That being said, you will have a lot of mana, so you will be able to block for a very long duration of time if you go for that tech. Moving on to our gear itself, this is where it gets a little silly. We're doing a full set of Shirking Heals along with our Shirking Blessing. We're doing 4 health, and we're maxing out on our Refreshing as well. So it's basically you will not die with the setup if you can get your Shirking Heals off. And you should be able to get your Shirking Heals off every 5 seconds. This will heal for about 5k HP. If you have Anointed up, this is going to heal for more. We have Divine as well and 50 Focus, so it's going to be healing for about 5 to 6k HP every time we proc this, and it's a little silly. But basically you have your own healer built into your kit, which is nice. We're doing health too to increase the value of Shirking Heals. That last boot slot, I threw on Shirking Heals for that too. You could put health there. I think it's kind of a preference. It doesn't matter too much. If we're going with Refreshing, Mending Vortex, Unending Thaw, kind of standard stuff there. The kind of fun one to get into here is the Kite Shield. You can put Refreshing Move on a Kite Shield, so that's super nice because that frees a spot up on our Flail. We have Refreshing on there, which is kind of nice, and we have Counterattack, which is a 30% empower every time we block. So if you block, you're going to get that Old Fortify, you're going to get a 30% empower. Very good to throw in a block a little bit before the pre-fight, and then just kind of go in if you pull aggro. On our Amulet itself, we got Health, Stamina Recovery, Divine. We're not doing a ward perk, we're taking Divine because we have so much healing that it seems like it's well worth it. We're kind of getting a little bit more crazy with the healing for the ring. We're going Hardy, Leeching, Purifying Heart with the Ghoul's Harmony. You could take Healing Breeze here too if you want even more healing. I thought that was a little bit overkill. Purifying Heart, because you're healing so much, you're going to get your ult super fast. Purifying Heart will strip all the debuffs on you when you cast your ult, so it's just like a very solid utility perk if you could take it for most classes. It's like basically having an extra tomb, an extra cleanse spot, like very nice to have. Healing Heart we're going to have in our earring along with Regenerating and Fortifying Toast. So Heart Rune is going to cleanse everything. It's going to heal us by 10% of our max HP. We have Regenerating, so we're constantly healing for about 200 HP per second off of that alone.
Fortifying Toast, every time we pop a pot, we're going to gain a 20% Fortify for 3 seconds. So all this kind of works together, and it's basically going to make you very, very hard to kill while you're also applying a lot of utility for your allies. Our ultimate is going to be Cunning Bile, just a very good ultimate to combo with all the exhaust-based effects. Overall, this is like a very, very good build for any kind of, I'd say 3v3 OPR, kind of maybe outside part of a war aspect. Like, it's something I'm going to be playing OPR a lot, just a very, very fun build to run. You do have to be a little bit careful about like dot effects and disease with this build. You don't have a great counter to that other than Purifying Heart and Cleansing Tomb, which I guess is 2 counters, so you have like a way to mitigate that, but it's a little bit tricky in regards to those effects. Moving on to Heavy Flail, this is a build that is more shot caller oriented, very, very solid at just living forever. It feels like you can kind of just run it down, kind of have no regard for your life whatsoever, and you'll just make it out alive with this build. It's kind of stupid, but you just move super, super fast because of the flail. You run through all the CC effects. You can just hunt down healers even with this build because you just zoom across the map at Mach 10 because you have so much passive haste for some reason, and it is quite rewarding. For the artifact for this, we're going to go with Unyielding, which is a heavy helm that reduces the crits that are incoming to you by 20%, so this is like resilient basically. That's going to help prevent us from getting bursted, which is the main goal of this build because this is more of a shot caller oriented build. I expect to see like 2 to 3 of these in a war army on the upcoming patch, so it's not just shot callers, but it's a very, very forgiving build to play, and you will still have good impact with it. And the flail itself, going for the same thing, Burning Smite, Plague Strikes, Exhaustive Exploitation. Nothing too crazy there. Ice Gauntlet, Deadly Frost, Refreshing Move, Exhaustive Exploitation. Same tree as the last one too. Nothing seemed like it needed to change. The actual heal base effect of when you're in heavy won't be super big, but the amount of ult charge you gain from it is well worth the cost, so that's the main reason why we're going down to that left ultimate. On our gear itself, this is where it's a little bit different. We're going to go for full Shrinking Fort, full health, so we're going to be less prone to be bursted. We're still going to max out on those refreshing stacks, going for Unending Thought, Mending Vortex, very similar setup. Shield is the same, refreshing move and counterattack. It just seems like it's a little bit more, or a little bit less prone to being bursted with this setup. And you just, also the headpiece just has like a really nice perk slot there with the Shrinking Fort, refreshing and health that you can get. Like, that's just literally best for a lot of builds, so it's very nice to run that Unyielding for PvP, versus with the other build, you have to eat the cost of having a physical aversion, which is not an ideal perk, and basically it's a dead perk slot. But the effect is well worth it for that other setup with medium flail. Under Amulet itself, kind of similar thing here, Health, Stamina, Recovery, Divine. I think Divine is still worth it for this build, but if you are feeling like you're still getting bursted, you could swap in a Void Protection there, because it seems like there's going to be a lot of Void damage next patch between the Void Gauntlet artifact and the Great Axe, the Abyss. So both of those effects will probably be high in terms of the amount of damage that's incoming, so a Void Ward would not be a bad thing to run on your Amulet as well, but I think this is fine for now. On our ring itself, Hardy, Leeching, Purifying Toast, same things, the Ghoul's Harmony, seems like it's a very solid choice for a ring. On the Earring, we go Healing Heart, Regenerating, Fortifying Toast, again, same thing. Very effective overall, just being very, very tanky. We're not going for Refreshing Toast anymore because that only decreases the actual pot cooldown by about 3 seconds. It's only a 10% change versus a 25% before, so it just doesn't seem like it's really worth forcing that Refreshing Toast. Instead, you just go for more passive healing base effects. In our ultimate, we're going for Cunning Bile again. We have that Disease and Exhaust kind of built into the kit from Plague Strikes and Exhausted Exploitation, so it just kind of makes sense. You're going to be able to lock people down with this build, sprint around the map like very, very quickly, and just do a lot. I think both variants are very viable. The heavy one is built more for being in the center of a fight. The medium one is built more for being around the fight, sort of on the edge. Maybe a little bit in their background as a solo. Like, you can kind of one-man army with the medium Flail Ice Gauntlet build, to be honest, because you have so much shirking heals, you're just not going to die. And you have so much passive healing too. So both of them are very, very fun to do. I had a lot of fun with them on the PTR, and I hope you guys enjoy them when the PTR patch comes to live soon, like about a week from now. And that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video.